Hello there, it's Lisa from LisaMW.com back again with you today. One of the things that I've kind of been thinking about doing is like a little series called Lunch with Lisa or some other L alliteration, right? Lattes with Lisa. Where we just kind of have a chat about various and sundry things, whatever floats through the ethers. And it's not so much an oracle reading or a pronunciation of the energies or whatever. It's not that. It's really just kind of a conversation. I watch a lot of different tarot readers on political stuff on YouTube, and one of the most popular ones, really, I think she's very popular, not because she's the best tarot reader, but I don't think she is, but she is very chatty, and it feels like when you sit down to watch her that you're talking with a friend, and I thought that seems kind of nice. Maybe that would be fun to play with. So today I thought that I would kind of just talk a little bit about how I found out I was intuitive and how that intuitive knowing led me to the way I see things politically, because I actually believe that they are very entwined. And so anyway, my mom, I've mentioned before, hi Mom, was a highly intuitive person. She lacked a lot of self-confidence in general, but as an intuitive being, she trusted her knowing amazingly. And my dad was, he was a brother. He wanted to be a priest. I believe he was studying to be a priest, and he worked in a monastery. And from what I understand, I wish that I had had him to talk about with this, but from what I understand, he worked with alcoholic priests. So this is like 1950 something. I was born in 1960. So 1950-ish. He was in a monastery, and he worked with alcoholic priests, and I think it like stressed him out or something. And he developed a bleeding ulcer. And so he was released from the monastery. And I know that that was really challenging for him. I've seen letters. My Aunt Tootsie saved letters that she received from my dad when he was in the monastery, and they were very Jesus-y. You know, he would sign it like yours in the name of Christ our Lord, or whatever. And so he was very much involved with that. And I'm not sure what intervened in between the time that he left that and the time that he met my mom. It wasn't terribly long after. And they got married in 1960, and I was born in 1960. I was born 10 months to the day that they got married. And they wasted no time. And so I didn't really know my dad as a religious person, except only fleetingly. But he came with a very strong spirituality. I remember, and I don't think my mom took it seriously, I don't know, but I remember one particular time my dad was sitting in the dark, just kind of crying, I think. As I remember, again, it's my memory. And I went out and I asked my mom, I was probably 10, what's going on in there? And she's like, oh, your father's just sad about his relationship with God. That's interesting. That you're just like out here watching TV and he's having a personal crisis in there. Whatever. Anyway, my dad died when I was 14 years old. He had been diabetic. He had lost his eyesight when I was 6 months old. And when I was 10, he lost both legs. I don't know how that man got through life. But what I learned from my dad that pairs beautifully with the intuitive knowing of my mom is that spirituality, is the belief that there's so much more going on than we can see, that we can fathom. And so I kind of just grew up with that understanding. I don't think my dad was what we would call intuitive or psychic. I think he just had a very strong belief in God. And I wish that I had talked with him more about that back in the day. But you're 13 and 14. That's not what you're going to be talking to your dad about, right? But anyway, he had a very inquisitive mind, and had a very strong spiritual soul. My mom was highly intuitive, but very practical. So I think I got a lot of that. So together, and from that, got that beautiful intuitive knowing and that practicality, and his sense that there's so much more out there than we can really even understand or wrap our heads around. And some things that I sort of just take for granted when I hear other people come to me and talk about, oh, is my loved one on the other side doing okay? And I think, well, they're all okay over there. They're all okay. Like, that's, nirvana, that's heaven, that's whatever. Everybody's fine over there. And so I wonder, sometimes how I came upon these beliefs that are so strong. Okay, so I always had those flashes of knowing, but didn't really pay much attention to them. And then I think I put them away for a while. I remember distinctly one time working in an office. I worked for a financial services firm for many, many years, and I didn't get along with this one boss. Oh, that's an understatement. And I signed the checks for, like, when we cut a check to a client, I signed the checks because I was the operations manager, he was the branch manager. And for some reason, and I don't even know what that was, I kept getting a very strong no, don't sign this check. And as I look back at that, I think, well, what was the problem? Because we wouldn't have cut the check to him if the money wasn't in his account. So I'm not really sure, but I remember it being so strong. So I told my boss, I can't sign this check. And he's like, you have to. And I'm like, no, I can't sign it. And he signed it, right, because he was the other signature in the office. But he wrote me up for insubordination. And that's how strongly I had to follow that knowing was, yep, write me up for insubordination. But if my inner knowing is telling me this, then I'm not going to do it. Okay, so I really always had that, but stronger at some points than other. And then I went through what they call a dark night of the soul in 2002. And it was that whole, like, what am I even here for? All of that stuff that comes up, right? And from that, I found my way toward what I call woo-woo, right, the metaphysical world. And it was like I belonged there. It was like I've always been there. Like I took a brief respite, but that I had always been there. And so I took class after class after class. And my husband said, can't you just pick one thing and stick with it? And I was like, why would I? But I went where my inner knowing led me. And I knew when I was finished with the teacher, okay, I'm complete there, we go here. And it was really a very windy path. And I didn't know how that was going to play out until I looked at it in hindsight. And I can see that all of the training that I've had has really been the underpinning for so much of what I do now with my clients. And it really just kind of helped me go to the next level with those skills that I sort of came in with in a rough sort of way. Well, during that time, that's when I started to get kind of awake and aware politically. I didn't come from a political family. We didn't talk about it. The only thing I remember really strongly was when I was 8 years old, that was 1968, and Bobby Kennedy got killed. He got assassinated, and Martin Luther King. And I remember that morning, that of the day after Kennedy was assassinated, and going to school. And I walked to the bus stop, and I was devastated. And I'm thinking, and even at that time, I was thinking, like, why am I devastated by this? But it just tore me up in a way nothing else had. I was 3 years old when John Kennedy died, and I actually do have a memory of watching his funeral on our little black and white television. But Bobby Kennedy's hit me really hard. And so that was the only political, really, moment that I recall. Like I said, my family was not political. We were Italian, we liked eating and gossiping about people, whatever. And it wasn't until that kind of dark night of the soul that I started paying attention. And what I came up with was how much of what I believe is intertwined with that intuitive knowing and intertwined with my understanding of all that is. And how I had to walk that belief. I couldn't be one person in my politics and another person in my life. And so I really had to align that. And I've really thought myself about mentioning political things in my work because, you know, it's not a thing we generally talk about, but it's so much a part of who I am now. Right, but 15 years, 2002, 16 years later. So 16 years I've had of being very awake and aware of the spiritual and the political. And the belief that we are all connected in some way, shape, or form really drives my belief that we need to take care of each other. And you just don't get to go like, well, too bad for you. Sorry, I have no food to eat. I got a big thing. That, for me, that doesn't work at all. And I think that I really, my inner core belief really also has to do with when one does well, we all do well. So why not help each person do well? Why not have a society that helps people do better, that makes it equitable? And like I was not raised to believe that as a woman I was inferior. Like, that's what? I can't even go there. Yet that is the belief. I mean, look at all the number of women now certainly coming into Congress, yay. But before, we were all represented by farty old white men. Why? Why did they make the decisions? Why do we not have a voice? So, as you can see, I kind of get all worked up about this, but that's my kind of belief, that we're all connected. Why not help someone do better? Why not share what you have? Yeah, there's always going to be people taking advantage of systems and people. Yes, but on the whole, we need to take care of each other. Like, I don't understand the issue behind not providing health care for people, or not at least giving them affordable options for health care. What? Like, I don't get that. Why would you not? If you have the ability, which really America certainly does, right? It's because of this, that why would you not? Why are people having to decide between their medication and food in the refrigerator? That's awful. I saw my mom go through that. Now, she did get Medicaid, which is for those who have nothing. And she didn't. She had nothing. And so she got Medicaid and Medicare and her Social Security, all of which, she paid into during her working years. But I saw someone have to make those decisions, and it was really challenging for her. For me, I did what I could for her, certainly, but she needed a lot of help. And I just don't understand a society where we cannot take care of people, where the choice is money, capitalism, over helping people. Why can't you have a prosperous society? I mean, maybe I'm a little tree hugger, but why can't you have a prosperous, I hate these phrases, prosperous society and take care of people? So the more that I came to understand that we were linked, we truly are linked on a soul level, the more it became imperative to me to align my political beliefs with that, and to walk that talk, and to really show what's important to me. Okay. So I wanted to share with you why I've become so passionate, and again, since like 2002, so passionate about it, and why I'm allowing that part out now. One of the things is that politics really is one of my passions. Who knew? You could never have told me this when I was younger, and it's not policy so much as, and I think this speaks really to my background. I wanted to be a therapist, and about why we really, why things happen as they do, who's playing who, what's going on, what's the thought behind this kind of thing. So I like looking at a bigger picture and how the parties play together or don't, and the policies get pushed back or they come forward based on whatever. And I also think that we're at a huge crossroads. I've said before, there's a video, you can check it out, of Donald Trump being a premier spiritual teacher for us all, because he doesn't care. He's not going to do things the way that they've always been done. He's not going to show up at World War I memorials because he doesn't care. That's not what he wants to do. And I'm not saying that's good. I'm just saying that he has broken all the protocols of what was acceptable. And we needed that so that we could break free of these things that kept us all kind of pushed under. We have to come up. We have to speak out and say, no, that's not what we want, or yes, that is what we want. I mean, I think, the midterm elections recently were a great harbinger of that, with the women, lots of women, people of color, different ethnicities. Oh my God, we totally need more diversity and more voices. Why is that not a good thing? I guess it's not a good thing if you're a 40-year-old white man. Sorry if you're a 40-year-old white guy watching this, probably not. But we need something that represents where we are now and not where we were 30, 40 years ago. And there will always be forces, I think, trying to make decisions on behalf of all of us that are not for our best interest, but for theirs. And but we can minimize that, and we can see it for what it is. And that's really what I think Donald Trump has done. I mean, it's very clear he's looking after his own ass, and that's it. So, it's right there for everybody to see. Is that what you choose? Is that what I choose? That's not what I choose. But I am thankful. And as God is my witness, I pray for him every single night. Because intuitively, I know he's really unhappy. So are we. So let's all make everybody happy and shuffle off. But he's very unhappy about all of this, and in that unhappiness, perhaps he will choose things that could harm, more harm than's already been done, many of us, particularly minorities, and those he looks down on, which is pretty much everybody except for the white men. And so I pray for him because he needs help, and Source Creator is really the biggest help he could get. So I pray for him and for all of us that we find our way through this, and that in the process we learn more about each other. Okay, so that's it for this episode. I didn't plan this to be that long, so maybe I'll cut it in a couple sections. But anyway, thanks for listening if you made it through the whole thing, and I'll talk to you again soon. See ya. Bye for now.